Welcome back to the channel. It's Adam Harris. Amazing show at Conquest this week. Pro Wrestling Conquest hits different. I'll tell you a little bit about that. We had a vendor show, toy sale on Saturday. No sales, but brought home some cool items, of course, and I'll show you a bunch of pickups from the last week or so and a few autos that I just added to my collection. If we haven't met, my name's Adam, ring announcer, wrestling fan, and collector here in the mountain state of West Virginia. Welcome back to the channel. Big show for Pro Wrestling Conquest in Kanawha City. Every promotion around here has its own mix of indie talent, and each is different, and some of them overlap. But man, Pro Wrestling Conquest always has this killer mix of indie stars, some hardcore stars, some of the guys from Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Pro Wrestling Conquest hits different. Was no different in that regard. It was really cool to get the invite to announce for them. I got to introduce a few names for the very first time, including Derek Dillinger and Katie Arquette. The production, Katie was injured, unfortunately, but Wes Barkley filled in. Every match had killer indie talent featured in it, along with some of our regulars in this region, some of our indie talent from right here in the area. But definitely the most brutal, the most intense, and the most compelling was the Working Class Rules match between Josh Williams and Bishop Baylor. The end of a year-long blow-off by two guys who really spent the last 3 years coming up together in the business. I did a long dramatic intro for that match because that's how we kicked off the show. And it deserved it. Those guys have been at each other's throat for the last year. Some of that was at Slam Plaza and at Sternwell Slamboree. A lot of those stories got told at our RPW matches. And so it was an intense blow-off to Josh and Bishop's feud. Brutal, intense stuff. And Bishop won the match decidedly, even after taking some skewers to the head. He got the pile driver in there, sent Josh Williams packing back to Kentucky. I mean, just look at this poster. Carson Drake from the NWA, TME, the tag champs, were in the house again. The production, as I mentioned, Derek Dillinger and Katie Arquette. Erica Lee, somebody I hadn't announced before. Of course, Matthew Justice has been making big waves, just picked up title gold in MLW. He gave a big cheers to Bishop Baylor on his way to the ring. That's a tag team I'm looking forward to seeing. Dalton McKenzie, always cool to see him. Had a great match with Chance Prophet. And I introduced for the first time the Savage Gentleman, Victor Benjamin. What a cool intro. SGVB. I like that. Victor Benjamin took on Troy Parker. That was a killer match as well. A lot of upper tier indie talent showing off at Pro Wrestling Conquest. All these guys still putting on great matches, definitely hungry and at the top of their game. So we're seeing a lot of these guys in their prime at Pro Wrestling Conquest. So shout out to those guys and thanks again for the invite. Coming up, we've got Gary's birthday party. That'll be at Little's Cafe. That'll be the last show of the year. And as long as everything goes well, it looks like that'll be my 29th wrestling show of the year. Not all that I've ring announced. I've ring announced most of those, I think, but have attended or ring announced 29 shows if I make it to Gary's, which I plan to in December. The documentary that I talked about in one of my earlier videos called Grappalachia is going to be premiering on West Virginia Public Broadcasting in December sometime. We still don't know the exact date, but I will let you guys know. Maybe even have Troy on to talk about Grappalachia. It's West Virginia Public Broadcasting's love letter to the wrestling fans of Appalachia. I think it's going to be great. So look for that soon. And it'll be available for streaming on Passport, which is like the streaming app for public broadcasting. Looking forward to next year. We've already got a date for our next Regatta Pro Wrestling event. It'll be at the Capitol Market for Market Mayhem on March 15th. Plans are already starting to come together for that one. And then just this week, Gary Dameron introduced the first inductee into the ASW Hall of Fame class of 2025, the one and only Shane Storm. Nobody deserves it more than him. Great to see people chiming in on Facebook today, and that'll be really good for Shane to get his flowers. Nobody deserves it more than Shane Storm. I saw that guy have awesome matches with Tito Santana, with Jerry the King Lawler, with Tony Atlas, with Madman Pondo. I've seen this guy go toe-to-toe with everybody, and he can have a great match with all of them. So congrats to Shane Storm. Looking forward to his induction coming up next year into the ASW Hall of Fame. So the last time I shouted out the WWE Vault YouTube channel, I ended up getting flagged in 9 continents or something like that by WWE, so I won't add any footage here, but suffice it to say that the Macho Man Randy Savage mixtape on the WWE Vault YouTube channel, you have to check out. If you are a fan of professional wrestling. A fan of perhaps the greatest professional wrestler of all time. We tend to take Macho Man for granted. I mean, he is so literally often imitated, but it's easy to forget that he is unmatched in the ring. I mean, what an incredible performer. He worked with everyone. There's a match on here. It starts off with one of my favorite matches of all time, Flair and Savage, WrestleMania 8. But there's some rare boys in here, too. There's a match with The Undertaker that I think is seeing the light of day for the first time. No commentary on that one. There's this insane six-man tag with, like, Roddy Piper and Flair and The Undertaker and Jake the Snake. Insane match. There's a cool match with HBK, young HBK going toe-to-toe with Macho Man. It's just so cool to see him get his moves in, and it's like he gets them in before you even realize that he's going for them. He loved that leap off the top rope down to the outside. Man, just unmatched on the mic as a performer in the ring. There's some of his best improv stuff on there from TNT, like where he's on the couch with the therapist. Love that vignette where Mean Gene visits Macho and Liz at their home, which I think was Vince's house. There's just tremendous stuff from Mean Gene, who's like the third player in the whole game, is Mean Gene and the Macho Man and their chemistry. So it's worth checking out. It's 3 hours long. I went back and chimed in 20 minutes at a time, and I just kept going back to revisit it. Every match I would watch here and there, and I recommend you do so as well. It's worth it, and to be reminded what an amazing wrestler that Macho Man is. Hopefully we get another mixtape from the WWE Vault in the coming years, because I'm sure there's even more cool stuff to be had from the Macho Man catalog. And finally, show you guys a few of the things from the vendor show. These are really cool, put on by Walk-In Time Toys, lots of records and some crafts, plenty of specialty items. There's like Star Wars and G.I. Joe. You can find somebody that specializes in anything, just about. There's a ton of variety. The guy next to me, Alan Maynor, has some of the coolest WCW stuff. I showed a lot of Restrain, and I'll post some of the photos there. The autographed Sting Galoobs, some cool WCW. My favorites, the original San Francisco Toy Makers, the whole shelf back there. And I showed a lot of Restrain with that, but he had a figure that I needed to get that I've been wanting for a very long time for only $15. Chris Jericho, Ringmasters, WCW. His first figure, I've got it loose on the shelf back there behind me, but cool to have it mint on card. In such great condition. He only wanted $15 for that. The guy came walking by my table and he's like, "Hey, I thought you might be interested in this." And it was a Special Delivery Jones LJN in great shape. Looked sweet. So I had to pick that one up. One of the few LJNs that I still need for my collection, and now I have it. I also picked up a couple Harlem Heats from my friend Triplet, traded those out so I don't have to open my Monday Night Wars. And then I got these two cool magazines. This Ultimate Warrior cover, which has a cool gold dust spread in it, and then, man, some real memories of this one, the WrestleMania 10. It's like a preview edition, and it's got the history of WrestleMania 1 through 9. And folks, I have to tell you, that magazine got worn out at my house when I was a kid. I wanted to know everything about every WrestleMania that had ever happened. And back then, I used to be able to tell you, at least like the main events or who wrestled who at every WrestleMania up until about 10 or 11, somewhere in there. I didn't sell anything that I took with me to the vendor shows. So I might be setting those out from now on. I've got really cool stuff, but it's only stuff that certain people might want. So I did sell a $5 keychain to my dude Matt, Bearded Vintage Toy Biz. So shout him out here, and you should follow him on Instagram. Does cool sales on Instagram all the time, and he's got a shop over in the South Charleston Antique Mall with a ton of cool stock there as well. And one of the pickups of the week was a figure from one of the indie guys that was at Pro Wrestling Conquest in the main event, the Atrocity Cruel. And he had, as soon as I walked in, I saw on his table this amazing figure. And so sure enough, I waited till the end of the night, went over and picked one up from him and got to chat a little bit with Cruel. Really cool. On the back is everybody else in the series, and it's like Jacob Fatu, Alexander Hammerstone, and Karrion Kross. And so a pretty big line for Boss Fight Toys, and a great figure with a cool sig. And then wrapping it up, I'm going to throw a couple autos up here that I've got in recent weeks. One was from JR to Walk in Time of Bill Alfonso, who I worked with at the Bash in Beckley. Calling it right down the middle. He was a special guest referee. While I didn't get to get that signature that night, JR picked up a few of his signature cards here, and I was able to get one of those at the shop the other week. Then, of course, the Jamie Noble that I showed off in my War Games review. What a sick signature on this. I think it's an 03 aggression card. Very sick. And I finally got a Danhausen auto on one of his AEW metal cards. That looks cool as hell. And this is a card that I've had on my list since I went back and looked. In January of 23, I said I wanted to get an early Bayley auto, and I finally have one. That's on card, 2016, undisputed, out of 50. And it's 2 years into her career. Her first cards are in 2014, and this is a 2016 auto. And so that's my little treat to myself for Christmas this year. That's about it for me. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you at the matches, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, I wasn't much on baseball as a youngin'. Hell, let's try it out right now.